They thought it would burn for a few days. But deep in the desert, something went wrong. It's been over 50 years and it never stopped. In the middle of a lifeless desert, where even the wind sounds empty, there is a fire that should not exist. No volcano, no eruption, no warning. Just a massive hole in the earth, filled with flames that have been burning nonstop for over 50 years. They said it would last a few days, maybe a few weeks, a controlled burn, a simple fix, nothing more. But the fire didn't stop. It grew louder, hotter, deeper, like something beneath the ground refused to let it die. At night you can see it from miles away, a glowing wound in complete darkness, pulling you closer, step by step, until you're standing at the edge of something that feels alive. No fences, no barriers, just loose ground and a drop into 1,000-degree inferno. One mistake and you're gone, instantly. So what really happened here? How did a single accident turn into one of the most terrifying places on Earth? And the most disturbing question of all, quite after half a century, is it still burning? Or worse, what if it was never supposed to stop? Far beyond the reach of cities, beyond highways, beyond anything that feels familiar, lies the Karakum Desert, a place so empty, so unforgiving, that even time feels slower here. The land stretches endlessly in every direction. Waves of dry sand, cracked earth, and silence that presses against your ears. No birds, no water, just wind and heat, and a horizon that never seems to move. But then, something breaks that silence. At first it's subtle, a faint glow, barely visible against the darkening sky. Easy to ignore, easy to mistake for a distant campfire. But as you move closer, the glow intensifies. It spreads wider, brighter, pulsing against the darkness like a signal. And that's when the desert begins to feel wrong, because nothing should be burning here. No trees, no fuel, no life. And yet, the closer you get, the warmer the air becomes. Not the natural warmth of the desert, but something harsher, more aggressive, like standing near an open furnace. Then you hear it, a low, constant roar, deep and mechanical, like a jet engine buried beneath the sand. It doesn't rise or fall. It doesn't stop. It just continues, endlessly, vibrating through the ground beneath your feet. And suddenly, the ground disappears, not gradually, not in a slope, but instantly. A massive crater opens up in front of you, wide enough to swallow buildings, deep enough that shadows cling to its walls even under the brightest light. The edges are unstable, brittle, crumbling with the slightest pressure. One step too far, and there's nothing to hold on to. Inside, flames. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Some small, flickering quietly along the walls. Others bursting suddenly from hidden pockets, shooting upward before vanishing again. The entire pit moves, shifts, breathes, like it's alive. The heat hits your face immediately. Dry, suffocating, relentless. It pulls the moisture from your skin, burns your throat with every breath. And yet, there's no smoke to hide it. Every flame is visible. Sharp, violent, hypnotic. This isn't chaos, it's controlled, in the most unnatural way possible. As if something beneath the surface is feeding it, sustaining it, refusing to let it die. Stand there long enough, and something strange happens. You stop seeing it as a fire. It becomes something else, something deeper, something that doesn't belong on the surface of this planet. A wound, left open, a mistake, still burning. A reminder that the ground beneath us isn't as stable as we believe. Locals have a name for it, not scientific, not official, but something far more honest. They call it the door to hell. But that name doesn't explain anything. It only raises more questions, because places like this don't just appear. They don't burn for decades without reason. And they definitely don't stay hidden, unless someone wanted them to be. So the real question is not what this place is, it's how it started. It started like any other operation. Routine, calculated, controlled. In the early 1970s, Soviet engineers arrived in the Karakum Desert with a clear objective: find gas, extract it, and move on. The land beneath them was believed to be rich, stable, predictable, just another resource waiting to be claimed. The drilling began slowly, metal biting into the earth. Deeper and deeper, breaking through layers that had remained untouched for millions of years. At first, everything went according to plan. Instruments showed promising signs. Pressure readings climbed. The kind of data that makes engineers confident, maybe even a little careless. And then, without warning, the ground gave way. Not a crack, not a warning tremor. A full collapse. The surface beneath the drilling rig suddenly opened, like the desert itself had been hollow all along. In seconds, the entire platform, tons of steel equipment, machinery, disappeared into the earth. Gone. No time to react. No time to escape. Just a violent shift, and then silence. What remained was a massive crater, unstable, breathing, leaking something invisible, something dangerous. Methane. Colorless, odorless, deadly. It began pouring out of the ground, spreading silently through the air. Not dramatic, not explosive, but far more dangerous, because you wouldn't see it coming, you wouldn't feel it, until it was too late. Nearby villages were now at risk. One shift in the wind, and the gas could suffocate everything in its path. The engineers had a problem, and not just any problem, a ticking one. They couldn't seal it, they couldn't contain it, and leaving it wasn't an option. So they stood at the edge of that crater, staring into something they didn't fully understand. A hidden pocket, far larger than expected, connected to something deeper beneath the surface. This wasn't just a drilling accident anymore. This was something bigger, something unstable, something out of control. And in that moment, a decision was made, a decision that seemed simple, logical, even necessary. Burn it, set the gas on fire, eliminate the threat, let it consume itself. A temporary solution for a temporary problem. At least, that's what they believed. Because what happened next, this changes everything. They didn't hesitate. Standing at the edge of that unstable crater, with invisible gas pouring into the air, the engineers moved quickly. There was no time for long calculations, no room for uncertainty. The decision had already been made. Burn it. A controlled ignition. That was the plan. Light the methane. Let it flare. Let it consume the excess gas. And within days, maybe weeks, the fire would die on its own. Simple, clean, effective. At least, in theory. The moment the flame touched the gas, the earth answered. A deep ignition, sudden and violent. Fire didn't just appear, it erupted. Flames burst from the crater walls, racing through invisible channels, igniting pockets of gas all at once. What should have been a single controlled burn became dozens, then hundreds of flickering vents, each one feeding the other. The crater came alive. Heat surged outward instantly, forcing everyone back. The air warped. The ground trembled slightly. And the sound. That sound began a constant roar. Not chaotic, not explosive, but steady, mechanical, like a giant engine had just been switched on beneath the earth. And it didn't slow down. Hours passed. The flames didn't shrink. They didn't weaken. They stabilized. Days passed. Still burning. Weeks passed. No change. The engineers watched, waiting for the fuel to run out, waiting for the pressure to drop, waiting for the fire to do what it was supposed to do. But it didn't, because what they had ignited wasn't a surface leak. It was a gateway, a continuous flow of gas, rising from deep underground reservoirs, feeding the flames endlessly. Every second, more fuel. Every minute, more pressure released. The fire wasn't consuming the problem. It was revealing its scale. What they thought was a temporary hazard was actually connected to something massive, something they couldn't measure, and definitely couldn't control. And slowly, realization set in. This wasn't going to stop. Not in days, not in weeks, maybe not even in years. The fire they had created had found its rhythm, a balance between fuel and flame, perfectly sustained, perfectly stable, and completely unstoppable. And then came the quiet part. No announcements, no emergency declarations, no global attention, just silence. Because admitting the truth would mean admitting something far worse than a failed experiment. It would mean admitting they had lost control. And so, the fire kept burning, unwatched, unreported, and unchecked. in the middle of nowhere. A mistake, hidden beneath sand and secrecy, growing stronger with every passing day. But the most disturbing part wasn't that it kept burning. It was that no one outside knew it even existed. Now it gets worse. For years, the fire burned alone. No headlines, no warnings, no official records released to the outside world. In the middle of the Cold War, information was controlled, filtered, buried when necessary. And this was the kind of mistake that didn't leave the desert, so it didn't. The Soviet Union simply moved on. Operations shifted elsewhere. Reports disappeared into archives. And the crater, this roaring, glowing anomaly, was left behind. Isolated, almost forgotten, but not completely. The locals knew. They didn't have data or scientific explanations, but they had something else, stories. Whispers passed between villages about a place where the earth burned, where the ground breathed fire, where the night sky never went completely dark. They didn't call it a gas crater. They called it something far more honest, a gate to something beneath. And in a place as empty as the Karakum Desert, even a rumor like that spreads slowly, but it spreads deep. Because when you live surrounded by silence, anything unnatural becomes unforgettable. Decades passed. The fire didn't weaken, didn't shrink, didn't change. It just continued. Through storms, through shifting Rimal, through time itself. The crater remained exactly as it was the day it was ignited, a constant in a world that had moved on without it. And then, everything changed. The Soviet Union collapsed. Borders opened, slowly at first, then wider. And with that, the outside world began to look in. Explorers, travelers, curious minds searching for places untouched, unknown, unseen. That's when the rumors resurfaced. A fire in the desert, a crater that never stops burning, a place no map clearly explained. At first, no one believed it. It sounded exaggerated, almost mythical, a natural illusion, or a traveler's story stretched too far. But curiosity has a way of pulling people into places they shouldn't go. And eventually, someone found it, not through official channels, not through guided tours, but by accident, by persistence, by following a glow in the distance that didn't belong there. And what they discovered wasn't a myth. It was real. Photographs began to appear, grainy at first, then clearer. A massive crater filled with fire, glowing like a wound in the earth. Proof that something had been burning, unnoticed, for decades. The world finally saw it, and just like that, a hidden mistake became a global fascination. But attention changes things, because once people start coming, once cameras arrive, once the world begins to watch, a secret can't stay buried forever. And this one was about to become something much bigger than a forgotten accident. This changes everything. Once the world discovered it, the crater stopped being a secret and became an obsession. Travelers began making the journey, not because it was easy, but because it wasn't. There are no direct roads leading to it, no clear signs, just endless desert tracks, shifting sands, and the constant risk of getting lost before you ever see it. But those who made it never forgot it, because nothing prepares you for the first moment you stand at the edge. At night, it doesn't look real. The desert is completely black, silent, empty, and then suddenly, this massive circle of fire appears, glowing like a giant furnace in the earth. It feels unnatural, like someone cut a hole into the planet and exposed something hidden beneath. The flames don't behave like normal fire. They don't flicker randomly. They move with purpose. Some areas burn low and steady, while others erupt suddenly, jets of flame bursting upward from unseen vents. It creates a pattern, almost like breathing. Expansion, contraction, movement, rhythm, and the sound. It's constant, a deep continuous roar, like standing beside a jet engine that never powers down. You don't just hear it, you feel it. It vibrates through your chest, through the ground, through your bones. The heat is immediate. Step too close, and your skin tightens. Your eyes dry out. Breathing becomes uncomfortable, heavy, almost forced. It's not just hot, it's aggressive. Like the crater is pushing you back, warning you. And yet, there is nothing stopping you from stepping closer. No fence, no barrier, no protection. Just loose, cracked earth beneath your feet, edges that can crumble without warning, dropping straight into temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius. One wrong step, and there would be nothing left to recover. Even in daylight, the horror doesn't fade. Without the glow of fire dominating your vision, you start to notice the details. The walls are charred, layered with black soot, red mineral streaks, and pale deposits left behind by years of burning gas. The ground looks damaged, almost diseased, like it's been cooked from the inside. Small flames still flicker across the surface, quiet but constant. The air smells heavy, sulfur mixed with something chemical, something unnatural. And then, there are the unexpected details. Insects drawn to the light, spiders crawling along the rim, dangerously close to the heat. Some move toward the flames, as if pulled by something they don't understand, before disappearing completely. Life attracted to death. But perhaps the most extraordinary moment came in 2013. A man decided to go inside. Canadian explorer George Karunis became the first person to descend into the crater. Wearing a specialized heat-resistant suit, breathing filtered air, he was lowered down the unstable wall, directly into the inferno. 30 meters down, surrounded by fire, standing on ground that could shift at any moment. He later described it as a coliseum of fire. The noise was overwhelming, the heat nearly unbearable, the environment completely hostile, and yet what he found there changed everything. Microbial life, tiny organisms surviving in conditions that should destroy anything alive, thriving in extreme heat, feeding on chemicals, existing on the very edge of what life should be capable of. It proved something incredible. Even in one of the most extreme environments on Earth, life finds a way. But above the crater, life tells a different story. Not far from the site, small communities exist, shaped entirely by this burning pit. Years ago, a nearby village was demolished by government order, its people forced to relocate. Now they live farther away, in smaller settlements, relying on the crater for survival. Tourists bring income, visitors bring attention, and attention brings opportunity. Families set up tents, sell food, offer guidance to travelers who come from across the world just to see the fire. For them, this isn't just a phenomenon, it's livelihood. But there's a fragile balance, because the same fire that attracts people is also disappearing. In recent years, the intensity has begun to drop. Fewer flames, smaller bursts, less roar. Efforts are being made to redirect the gas, to shut it down completely, and that creates a strange reality. For scientists, it's progress. For the environment, it's necessary. But for the people who live here, and for those who travel thousands of miles to witness it, it feels like something is being lost. A place that should never have existed. A fire that burned longer than anyone imagined. A phenomenon that turned a mistake into a legend is slowly fading away. And once it's gone, it may never come back. For decades, it felt eternal. A fire that ignored time, ignored expectation, ignored every prediction made about it. But now, something is changing. The flames are weaker. Where there were once towering bursts of fire, now there are gaps. Where the roar once dominated the desert, now there are moments, brief, unsettling moments and of quiet. Visitors who arrive today don't see the same inferno that once lit up the entire horizon. Instead, they see fragments, pockets of flame, scattered, fading, struggling to hold on. And this isn't natural. It's deliberate. The Turkmenistan government has stepped in. Quietly, but decisively, new wells have been drilled around the crater, designed to redirect the gas feeding it. Instead of allowing methane to escape into the pit, it's being captured, diverted, controlled. In simple terms, they are starving the fire, and it's working. Reports suggest the intensity has dropped significantly in recent years. Some estimates claim the flames are now only a fraction of what they once were. Satellite images hint at the same story. Less heat, less activity, less life inside the crater. For the first time in over 50 years, the end feels possible. But that creates a strange tension, because not everyone wants it to end. For environmental experts, shutting it down is a victory. Less wasted gas, fewer emissions, more control over a long-standing problem. For the government, it's a step toward modernization, toward efficiency, toward a cleaner image. But for the people who live nearby, it's something else entirely. Uncertainty. Because when the fire disappears, so do the visitors. And when the visitors stop coming, the small businesses, the roadside stalls, the fragile economy built around this single location begins to collapse. A fire that once threatened life became the very thing sustaining it. And for travelers, there's another loss. Not economic, but something harder to explain. Because places like this are rare, not just visually, but emotionally. Standing at the edge of that crater, feeling the heat, hearing the roar, watching something burn that shouldn't even exist, it creates a kind of connection. A reminder that the world is still unpredictable, still dangerous, still beyond full human control. And now that experience is disappearing. Soon, the crater may go silent. No flames, no glow, no roar, just a hole in the ground, in the middle of an empty desert. And maybe that's how it should have always been. But before it fades completely, before the last flame flickers out, there are questions that still don't have answers. What exactly lies beneath that crater? Still buried? Still unreachable? Was the gas pocket truly finite? Or was it connected to something much larger? Something deeper that we never fully understood? If the fire goes out completely, will the ground remain stable? Or will it collapse again, opening something even worse? And the most unsettling question of all, did we actually solve the problem? Or simply silence it? Because for more than 50 years, this place burned without stopping, without control, without explanation. A mistake that refused to disappear. A fire that outlived the people who created it. And now, as it finally begins to die, it leaves behind something far more dangerous than flames. Unanswered questions. So before you look away, before this place becomes just another forgotten story, ask yourself, if a single decision could create something like this, what else might still be burning? Where no one is looking? If this story pulled you in, made you think, made you question what lies beneath the surface, then make sure you don't miss what comes next, because some of the most dangerous places on Earth aren't the ones we see, they're the ones still hidden. Subscribe and stay curious.